Linux, groups versus groups username. Does anybody know why the Linux command shows a different output than the logged in user is the same as the parameter username? Example.
Groups on its own gives the current group membership of the owner of the process. This can differ from groups if the group B has changed since the process started or the process owner changed.
Run updated, see if there is any change. The same in my OS X machine when group B has not changed.
When you run group's username, it looks up the given user in etc. password and etc's group, although it can be LDAP, NIS or something else too, and shows you all groups found. On the other hand, when you run the groups command without any arguments, it simply lists all groups it itself belongs to 3, which is not necessarily the same as what is listed in etc's group. See below for an explanation. In fact, the only lookups made to etc's group are for translating GIDs to group names. Each process has a set of credentials, which contains, among other things, a real group ID, primary GID, an effective group ID, EGID, and a list of supplementary group IDs, secondary GIDs. By default, a process inherits its credentials from its parent. However, processes running as root, UD0, or having the cap_setuid capability are allowed to set arbitrary credentials. In particular, when you log into Linux, whether in a TTY, X11, or over SSH, the login process, bin login, GDM, SSHD, looks up your username to determine your UD, primary GID, and secondary GIDs. On a personal machine, this just means reading the appropriate lines from parsed and group files, or NIS, LDAP, etc. Next, the login process switches 4 to those credentials before starting your session, and every process you launch from now on will have the exact same UD and GIDs. The system does not check etc's group anymore 5 and will not pick up any modifications made. In this way, the bind groups process will belong to the same groups as you did when you logged in, not what the database says you are in. Note, the above explanation also applies to almost all Unixes. To the Windows NT family, except UIDs and GIDs are all called SIDS, there is no primary group. The credentials are called the process token, and cap_setuid is security token privilege or sec privilege, and likely to most other multi-user operating systems. 1. Get_PUID and getGroupList are used to look up a user's groups. 2. On Linux, glib uses etc. nswitch.conf to determine where to look for this information. 3. Groups uses getGID, getegid, and getGroups to obtain its own credentials. 4. Setuid, setgid, init groups, and related. 5. An exception, of course, is the various tools that run elevated, setuid, such as su, sudo, sg, nugerp, pexec, and so on. This means that su$user will spawn a shell with the updated group list.
Just restart the computer, and both groups and groups user should give the same results. The reason they were different was because you added yourself to a new group, which you weren't a member of when you started the computer.